I'm asking you one very simple question. What was the most broken weapon you have ever used in a Souls game? Don't think too hard about it. Just let me know in the comments. Fromsoftware has cemented themselves on the grand stage of pop culture, and what was once a cult-like following of difficult games made for the real gamers has now become so popular that I'm seeing my friends who wouldn't dare touch a Souls game playing Elden Ring, all the way to their heart's content. Hell, I'm seeing friends who don't play video games at all, what's wrong with them, talk about Elden Ring. Elden Ring even passed Call of Duty Vanguard in sales. So yeah, Elden Ring is a little popular. Being the popular kid does come with its own issues though, as you're always under a microscope and you're always being told that you should have an easy mode. Fromsoftware has had some very powerful weapons in its past, with the most notable for me always being that pizza cutter from Bloodborne. Elden Ring's creative director has always been saying that his vision for Souls games was to never make them difficult for the sake of being hard. Instead, saying that he wanted games that give the player a sense of accomplishment by overcoming tremendous odds. I believe it's important to look at the philosophy shift in Elden Ring now because it's incredibly important for today's video. Miyazaki's new philosophy for Elden Ring was to make, quote, death enjoyable?
I feel apologetic toward anyone who feels there's just too much to overcome, but I want as many players as possible to experience the joy that comes from overcoming hardship.
If you are or aren't familiar, we made a video covering Let Me Solo Her, the legend who stood up in the face of a game that was built on hardship and overcame not only his greatest challenge, but has helped, as of recording this video, over 1,000 players defeat Elden Ring's hardest challenge. It's such an insane accomplishment. And what was even more legendary? Infinite Galaxy, the only game where you can become the greatest admiral of the biggest space fleet in the universe.
Yo, CB,
Yo,
what do you think of Infinite Galaxy?
is that space bubble game?
Yeah?
Oh, that thing's dope. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
Use a variety of ships to expand your territory against millions of other wannabe commanders out there in an alliance you can create. Upgrade your base, make the right moves before others by winning the game of space chess. You can even unlock supreme commanders with their own special skills. And no, you can't unlock Liam Neeson. Mix them in well like a true raid team in order to have absolute takeover in the galaxy. Let them know who's boss and get to clapping some space cheats. Now there's only one way that I can help you with this. Just download Infinite Galaxy with the link below and you'll get your special in-game rewards for $60 worth of gifts. Go and enjoy the battle to the fullest. Thank you so much to Infinite Galaxy, and now back to the video. Now, Miyazaki had one more notable quote for Elden Ring's game design.
We understand that Souls-like games are regularly associated with impossible levels of difficulty with high barriers to entry, but we hope that with Elden Ring and the new options it provides, it will be a success in that respect.
You can point your finger at what exactly Miyazaki is referring to. You can point to it being the new spirit summon system. You can point to it being the freedom of exploring the world. Or, where I put my guess, you can point that very large and in charge finger at rivers of blood. So yeah, let's talk about the weapon that broke Elden Ring. Some footage in this video is from players around the community. Their links will be in the description of this video, as well as the music too. For a weapon this busted, you'd think there would be a difficult way to get it. And there is. deep within the depths of the Halig Tree, and after defeating Elden Ring's optional hardest boss, Melania, there is an item not far away. This is the half of the Medallion of Ease, which gives the player the option to make a journey unlike any other, traveling back to Jarburg, but only after losing to Alexander, the pot friend himself. You can proc new dialogue with one of the pot NPCs. This NPC tells you to complete a new journey to Melania, and this time, summon the Phantom, Let Me Solo Her. After only letting Let Me Solo Her kill the boss for you, remember you can do no damage, the other half will drop from the boss. After defeating the Elden Beast for a second time, our quest comes to an end when you take another grand lift, and the weapon will drop with a note attached. YouTube analytics tells me that more people are not subscribed than subscribed. Be sure to subscribe, it helps me a lot. Thank you. Okay, so maybe Rivers of Blood doesn't have some sort of crazy quest attached to it. Rivers of Blood isn't acquired by killing some giant monster. It's not acquired by slaying gods. It's not even acquired in a dungeon. The Rivers of Blood is obtained here on the map, somewhat deep into the late game area of the mountaintops of the giants. Once you naturally progress the main game to get here, you'll find the Church of Repose in the southeast of this map. As you approach the church, you'll be invaded by an NPC named Bloody Finger Okina, who so happens to be wielding the Rivers of Blood katana. Okina is a difficult fight since, well, he wields the Rivers of Blood, but you have grace to touch, heals at your disposal, so it's easy in the grand scheme. Once the journey to acquire Rivers of Blood is finished, the next part is becoming ready to wield it. Rivers of Blood stacks with Arcane and Dexterity, and has the strongest Ash of War or weapon art in the entire game, the Corpse Piler. So, how strong could it really be?
Is this how you get your sick kicks?
What? It's just an ordinary crabby. Oh my goodness! Squidward!
This fast-firing, low FP consuming, massive hitbox and damage attack is exactly why the Rivers of Blood has established itself as downright busted good. Look, it's not a weapon that has glitches the same way some other weapons we've covered on the channel have established. It's not a weapon that has some broken quest to achieve it. Rivers of Blood is just the weapon I would think broke Elden Ring in the way Fromsoftware wanted it to. That's a bold statement, but in all of the patches to Elden Ring over its lifespan, nerfs to busted weapons of the past, builds that not even Walter White could come up with, and even bosses being nerfed, Rivers of Blood, after all of the chatter, has only received an animation slowdown. The animation is still one of the fastest in the game. So this has done little to nothing in terms of bringing it back down to reasonable power. Comments on almost any update to Elden Ring always discuss this weapon and when it will be nerfed. Threads on Reddit do the same. I'm not here to call for nerfs. I like it when games have weapons that stand out above others. I am just here to ask you, do you think Fromsoftware wants Rivers of Blood to be this powerful? Or is it an oversight? Let me know in the comments. Rivers of Blood is rightfully scaled with Bleed, which is one of the most powerful status effects in the entire game. The damage of Bleed is equal to a percentage of the target's max HP. So Rivers of Blood status 52, and yeah, that's a lot of damage. The counter to Bleed is a target that is robust, but here's the thing with Rivers of Blood. Even without the Bleed aspect of this weapon, the weapon art is so fast and so far-reaching that it is basically a ranged weapon disguised as a katana. Even in situations where the target is completely immune to Bleed, I would still recommend a player use Rivers of Blood for the weapon art alone. The fact of the matter is that Elden Ring is a game dedicated to have the player thinking. There is thinking when to dodge, when to heal, when to use a specific item, when to jump, and when to hit something that seems a bit out of place. The ultimate endgame of thinking comes in the form of build crafting, and I think it's safe to say that thinking is off the table with Rivers of Blood. It sinks in and does the thinking for you. Case in point, Melania, the game's hardest boss, goes from an impossible feeling task to spamming weapon art for an easy kill in the matter of only swapping to Rivers of Blood. But like any great weapon in Elden Ring, the build can take it much further, and somehow, some way, Rivers of Blood builds are absolutely bananas.
Woo! The bleed procs.
Everybody just L2 together.
Rivers of Blood, Elden Ring's most powerful weapon for the ease of use. Fromsoftware weapons of the past may have had some incredible strength, some weapons that have stood above the rest, but nothing as strong as this. Some builds may stand above it, but Rivers of Blood has the easy access of spam weapon art for an insane amount of damage. This weapon, in even an amateur's hands, will bring destruction to enemies before it, but in a master's hands, it is unstoppable. Thank you so much for watching this piece on Rivers of Blood, a sword that I believe has broken Elden Ring. If you did enjoy this content, I recommend subscribing as well as watching my stream on Twitch at EvanF1997. Gamer Subs has just dropped a whole new line of merch, shakers, and flavors, so using code EVAN helps out a lot there too. Plus, I really just love the drink. It's the only energy drink that doesn't have that awful aftertaste or bad health effects, and they even have caffeine free packed with vitamin B6 and B12 for my non-energy wanters. Final announcement is that my merch will be closing very soon. I extended the window since a lot of you guys requested for that, so be sure to scoop it up while you still can. Anyways, thanks everyone, and until next time.